Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Heath Bar, the podcast that lets you get to know the artists, creators, and leaders of the Black Hills and surrounding areas. Each episode serves up a conversation with a different guest, and we sit down with them over a drink of their choice and get to know the person behind the talent as if we were sitting down chatting at a bar. There's no scripts, no editing, and no plans, so what you're about to hear is an authentic conversation as it happened. The guests that hang out here at the Heath Bar have some incredible stories to share. So if you're able to, grab a drink while I get this conversation ready for you. And if you didn't notice, I took some time off, but that's all right. I'm back and bringing you a great conversation to kick things off again. This one's gonna be great. But before I get to that, I want to make sure that you have, if you haven't already, or if you would like to at some point in the future, subscribe to this show in your podcast weapon of choice. Whether it's iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, click that subscribe button. It lets you know your conversation is fresh and ready for you. Also, if you want to get in touch with me for any reason, whether it's something you thought about while listening to the show, maybe you have a critique on something you think could make the show better, you know someone you think could come for an episode, or you just want to say hi, you can do all of that and more by shooting me an email at heath@heathbaronline.com. That happens to also be the place where you can find my website, heathbaronline.com. It has all the shows up there, as well as some podcast blogs, my own blog, and events and places that I will be playing at, talking at, whatever the case may be. You can find everything I'm doing up on there as well. And finally, enough of you have mentioned that you'd be willing to throw in a few bucks a month to help the podcast grow. This will lead to new equipment, new opportunities for conversations, podcast hosting costs, and Heath Bar merch for you. So, I've set up a Patreon page that makes it easy for you all to do just that. There's different tiers of price points that you can donate to every month, so pick a tier that you think you'd be willing to give, and that's it. You'll get access to extra Heath Bar mini episodes as they come available. So go to www.patreon.com/The Heath Bar to join the rest of the regulars here at the Heath Bar today. All right, folks, this conversation is ready. This week, the mighty Sean Covel hung out at the Heath Bar. He's one of the coolest locally talented gents you'll ever meet. I first met him years ago when I was slinging beers as a bartender. Sean would come in with some friends and we'd all be in for a great night. I can still hear the laughter from everyone when I think back to those evenings. Sean grew up in Edgemont, South Dakota and rode the path through Kearney, Nebraska for college all the way to LA, California, where he got into film production. He's produced a number of films, but his biggest hit, you know, as the cult classic Napoleon Dynamite. He shares with us the story of how that movie came to be and the process it took for him to get into film producing. Man, there's some stories in there and much laughter was shared, and I'm not going to spoil it for you here, so you're going to have to stick around and listen. We do also talk, though, about a program that he started up back in 2015 called 12 Days of Pizza. Pizza Ranch partnered with him and provides meals for families during the winter and Christmas holidays who may have a hard time getting meals. It is quite phenomenal how quickly this program has expanded from 12 families and 144 meals the first year to, in a couple years, over 14,000 meals with over 1,100 families. You can check out more info on this at the12daysofpizza.com. But enough of me talking about chatting with Sean. Let's get to it. So without further ado, Heath Bar patrons, I give you Sean Covel. Welcome to the Heath Bar, where the conversations are always on tap. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you doing this.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for asking me. It's an honor to be, blessed by the guy who runs the art scene here in the hills to be like, you are worthy.
Well, I do part of it. I don't know if I run it, but maybe one day.
I have faith in you.
I was thinking back to when we first met, and I was a lowly bartender
Flanagan.
at Flanagan's Pub.
Oh, it was a fine time.
God, that was like lifetimes ago now. It feels like for me.
Absolutely, same here.
Oh man, at least 6 years ago, I would think.
Oh my
Five
God,
to 6
was
years.
it?
I think so.
Oh, I keep lying to myself that I've been here for like a year. I'm like, oh, it's just easy. I've been here for a year, going back and forth. No, it's been
A while. Well,
5 years.
the job I'm at now, I'd be there 4 years in March. So I quit Flanagan's at least almost 4 years ago, and I was there for 3 years.
Oh, I remember when you tried to quit Flanagan's. You were like jonesing for stories, and you just like couldn't handle the isolation of only seeing 10 people at the office a day instead of 40. Remember, you were still moonlighting, and I was envious. I was like, give me a job.
Oh man, it's so funny story though. That's kind of how I met my wife.
Oh, cool.
Just through her. Well, my ex-friend, her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, there you go.
You know how it
All
works.
right, yeah.
But her parents told her, they said, never date a bartender or a musician. Oh. I was both, and she decided to start dating me. So,
wow.
You know,
yeah, good.
It worked
Good for
out, at least so far.
It worked out for her because you ended up with a job.
That's true. I ended up with a good job, and
you can still be a musician, and yet you're not destitute, pulling coins out of the guitar case.
Yeah,
not that there's anything wrong.
No, there's not. It is a hard life, though. It is a hard life. I don't miss having to gig to live, and now I get to do it for fun. So that's pretty cool. But you grew up in South Dakota. Mm-hmm. So it was at Edgemont, right?
Yeah, Edgemont, which is about 70 miles south of here.
But you weren't born there.
No, I was born in Wyoming, in Newcastle, Wyoming.
Okay.
In a hospital that's 45 miles due west of Edgemont. But the hospital that all my sisters were born at is 25 miles due east in Hot Springs. I think that my dad was just so freaked out that he just took a left when he should have hung a right. Like a left at Albuquerque. And then they just kept driving. They're like, we're committed to this. We're not stopping until we hit a town. And then they hit Newcastle.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, man.
I spent about 3 days in Newcastle, and that's enough for my entire life, I think.
I only drive through it.
Yeah.
On my way to Colorado. Mm-hmm. So I've never actually stopped and hung out. Although I've heard there's a really good mead place there.
I didn't know that it was settled by Vikings. I was unaware.
Wyoming will surprise you, man.
They are a hard people.
The more I learn about that state.
That's true.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, so you grew up in South Dakota. Yep. You went to college in Kearney.
I did.
Which is awesome because I grew up in western Nebraska. So
where did you grow up?
So I grew up in a town called Arthur, which is north of Ogallala.
Okay, yep.
By about 42 miles.
Oh, man.
128 people in the whole county.
In the county?
Nothing there. Like literally, we had a bar, a church, and a school.
Yeah.
No grocery store, no gas station, anything like that. 6-man football.
Nice.
Super, super tiny. And our bus driver was our sheriff. So when the volleyball team had an away game,
lawless place.
We had a blast.
It was a lawless place. I think I probably drove through there because I went to, as you mentioned, UNK. Can I be drunk without UNK? Did my 4 hard years in the middle of a cornfield.
Yeah.
In Iowa. But I'd shoot down from Edgemont to Ogallala and then get on the interstate down there. So down through like Oshkosh, which is a fun thing to say. And had to be kind of near your neck of the woods.
Yeah, it would be. We played them a few times in basketball, I remember. So we got down there every now and then. But yeah, Midwest through and through, though. That's pretty cool.
I know, right?
I think I was thinking about this on the way here. You probably are the smiliest person I've ever had on the podcast.
Well, I'm glad that everyone can take advantage of that here on this altered radio format.
Exactly.
It's just because I'm large and orange, I just project a nice ginger kid vibe. In Los Angeles, I would walk down the street. This is true. When I first got there, because I was like, oh, it's a big, tough city. I'm gonna look tough when I'm walking down the street. And so I'd be like, right? Never once did I get more than a block of my tough looking until somebody would stop me and ask me for the time or directions. It was clearly the least intimidating thing in a city of 13 million people. Like that guy, he's fine.
I did the same thing in Chicago a few weeks ago. I just trimmed my beard, but before this, it was down to like mid-chest. I was like, I'm going to wait till after Chicago because it looked meaner with a big beard, I think. But I'm 90 pounds dripping wet, so who am I kidding?
So who cares?
Who am I kidding?
They know actual violence in Chicago.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man.
So you went to Kearney. You got into movie producing or film producing, which sounds better to say. Is it film or movie?
Either one's fine. The cinematic adventure.
There you go.
So Edgemont was super small, kind of like your town.
Yeah.
When I left, our grocery store closed down. It's now been turned into a shooting range.
Like they do.
Like they do.
Yeah.
There's archery with 3D targets, which is wonderful. And then on Sundays after church, a bunch of guys dress up, no joke, like old cowboys, and they have a fast draw competition in the spot where I used to mop. They're there. And one of the guys, John Kohler, actually won the national fast draw competition. So it's working out for him.
Holy crap.
One guy is legally blind. They call him One-Eyed Pete. And he's legally blind, and he has a gun and is practicing fast draw.
South Dakota, man.
I love it here so much.
You can't beat it.
I love it. Yeah, so I left here and went down to Kearney, which was just worlds away. It was the biggest city I had ever imagined living in, with 20,000 people. Right?
Yeah.
And learned about pizza delivery and did like the freshman 35 lickety split. And it was great, just
There
like
it
that, just like that, and lived through like. I don't know. I mean, you've spent time in Nebraska. You know that there are ice storms down there, like storms of ice that cover. It looks like a beautiful crystalline land.
Yeah.
And then you step out and crack your freaking coccyx on the sidewalk, and like you have actual locusts that you have to worry about, actual grasshoppers. And one time in Kearney, the sky went black one day with easily 10,000 crows that came in, and they just landed on campus. And they filled up all the trees, and they would just squawk 24 hours a day. And there was a guy on the edge of campus who had a shotgun who would just randomly pull the trigger, kaboom, to try to run them off. And they didn't care. So the thing to do was wait till your buddy was like walking to whatever class building he was going to. And then you just scream, like, what's up? And they would squeal and lift, and every one of those birds would poop before they took off. And you'd see your buddy just flat out sprinting as just bird shit is just landing everywhere. And dude, like, this is Old Testament crap. And I frequently say that this is what happens when you put football before God, which is what they do in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Third largest city in the state is stadium on game day.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, easily.
That's
hands down.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I used to have to wear Husker stuff. I mean, I have no athletic ability. I'm built like a table, all leg, and no movement, right?
But you can't live in Nebraska and not be a Husker fan. They won't let you.
Yeah. No, it's not possible. There was, I don't know, what is the rating of your podcast? Let's find out. I actually, when I was dating this girl for a while, I was so excited, and we were making out one time, and she mentioned she had like red lingerie, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. She's like, yeah, it's game day. What? Get me out of this state. What's happening?
It goes down to the core, man.
It's deep. So, yeah.
Everything. You could take layers and layers of clothes off. It's all going to be red.
It's all going to be red. Yep.
All going to be red.
And I actually circled a petition to carve the state of Nebraska out of America and use the Ogallala Aquifer as our nation's largest lake. I did not receive many signatures. So I ended up moving to California. Yeah.
Like,
as one does. Well, I always
when you want to run from the Huskers, that's about as far as you can get.
I just kept going until I hit water.
Right.
I wanted to go east just like my dad, but I just turned the wrong direction. And I'm going till I hit water. I got to get out of here.
Like father, like son.
Like
just going to go
son.
till we hit something.
Yeah, we're not going to stop. And ended up in San Francisco because I didn't know the difference between San Francisco and Los Angeles. I thought like California is movies.
So I couldn't point out the difference. I've only been to California
Right?
once, and that was at the airport coming back from Hawaii.
There you go.
I don't know.
You had more information than I did.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I knew that in undergrad I was writing radio ad campaigns and selling radio ads and stuff to pay for school, which is a horrible job. But I would snag my friends from the theater program and we'd write these crazy ads and they'd voice them and it was super fun. And so I figured out if I could get to the top of the advertising game, Jerry Bruckheimer did that with Don Simpson. They were big in advertising and they crossed over into making movies. And I was like, that if I can just figure out how to get to that game, top of that, I'll figure out how to chase my dream of making movies, even though I didn't know what producing was or what any of these things. I just wanted to be in movies. So I got there. I went to San Francisco because that has the highest per capita density of advertising agencies of any city in the nation.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Really amazing ad agencies. So
Okay.
I got there, sold my car for the money to rent a U-Haul, and threw my motorcycle and a mattress in the back of it and just freaking drove out there and got there and found out that the vacancy rate in San Francisco at the time was 1%. So I lived in that U-Haul for like a week. And when I'd go, you wouldn't go look at an apartment. You'd go stand in line to look at a room in an apartment to live with complete strangers. And so I'd show up and they'd be like, so when could you move in? And I would just, look, feast your eyes. There's my Penske moving truck. And San Francisco's super hilly. So I'm driving up one of the hills and just hear crap falling around in the back. Fortunately, I didn't own anything of value and the bike had been knocked over before. So anyway, I got there and I called every agency and I asked HR, who's your temp firm? And they would tell me who their temp firm was. And I'd go over and pass the basic typing test. And then these temp firms would send me in to just do filing or cover for an assistant or whatever at each and every one of the agencies. And I did that so I could kind of understand the vibe of that agency, understand the way it's structured, meet people, and then make a play for the agency I wanted to be at.
Wow.
It was very smart. Except it didn't work. When I went in there, I started talking to the creators and stuff. They're like, no, kid, you're an idiot. You are about to climb the wrong ladder, and you're going to work really hard and spend a lot of time doing it, but you need to be on a different ladder.
How old were you?
21.
And they caught you then and said, hey, wrong ladder.
Wrong ladder, which is awesome.
Oof.
Because it could have been quite a climb.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up out here, I thought that I'd spend, 40 years at a company and get a gold watch and maybe somewhere along the way get to talk about movies, but I didn't know. So this was during the dot-com boom, so tons of ideas were flying around and VC cash was flying around to make companies that made no sense, and and young people were doing cool stuff. And I got really good at passing the temp firm interview, which is basically an "Are you a serial killer?" interview. Like, if you have chronic halitosis and I can't smell it from 3 feet, you're fine.
Right.
Just go. You're fine.
Are you breathing? Are you human?
We can do this. We can do this. And so I got really used to that format. And I went to what I thought was a temp firm interview, and it wasn't. And I started being asked these weird questions like, so what makes you think you could be an elite executive, search executive and a headhunter? What makes you think you could put together these companies and all this stuff? Just ran my mouth, right? And it turns out it was one of the largest headhunting firms in San Francisco. A headhunting firm's job is to go into companies and get vice presidents and CEOs and chief technology officers to leave that company into a new company. It's just basically stealing is what it is.
Right.
And you broker these transactions. You're like an agent. You're an agent for a company to go get them talent. You're an agent for talent to get them into a company. And I was the youngest hire by a margin of about 20 years.
Holy crap.
Because technology was blowing up and all these other industries were like banking and construction, and everybody who lived a career doing that, they're like, we don't know what the hell's going on with this tech thing. We just know that goofy ass young kids like this guy are doing it. So they brought me in. I started my career there. I built my own tech consulting firm because, man, I'm talking a lot. But
No, it's good. I've never heard these stories, and like I said, I've served you many a drink. And we've never had this conversation.
Many a drink. While I was there, there was a company called Casting.com, which now sounds really nefarious, but at the time, Casting.com was going to be this like database of actors, and movies could go look on there. And this was a mind-blowing idea.
Yeah.
So they were having a launch party in Nob Hill. We called it Snob Hill because it was like the elite rich part of San Francisco. And that's old-ass money up there. And a friend of mine told me about it. I was like, I got to break into this party. He's like, no, man, I'm just serving hors d'oeuvres. I can't get you in. I'm like, you don't worry about that. I'm going to this party. So get on my motorcycle. I'm in my suit after work. It's raining. So I'm like driving through streets of San Francisco, sopping wet in a suit. I sneak in the back door and just start talking to people. Tom Hanks' mom was there. And she's Asian. He's adopted. And she ended up hitting me on the butt with a rolled-up poster she had. No, I don't think it was in self-defense, but I don't really remember. And there was a girl there, this beautiful girl. She was in a gown, like a red satin gown, and dark hair. Her hair was up, and she had roses in her hair, almost like a crown. And I get to talking to her, and her name is Mandana Farman-Farmian. And the Farman-Farmian family is the last family in Iran that ruled Iran from the Qajar dynasty, which ruled Iran from the 1300s clear up until the 70s when the Ayatollah came. And she was the last granddaughter of the Shah. So she grew up in the palace in Tehran. And she was there when like everybody had to get out. So we kind of struck up a friendship. We got to talking about motorcycles. She said she always wanted a fat boy, and I was quite smitten. And so I sent her a small model fat boy. She had a makeup company, so I sent it to her company's office and said, she's like 5'2". I'm like, here's a fat boy you can hold up, because she said she couldn't hold one up. And she called, and we started dating. And I remember our first date, I showed up with like my high school photo album, not even the yearbook, but photo album, just to be like, I can't front pretending that I walk in your world, you know?
Right?
Like I will screw it up. So
this is Edgemont.
Yeah, this is Edgemont. This is Edgemont. Here's the people who shoot things in the grocery store. This is a picture of me with a chicken on my head that was my pet. Like,
and all of this is me.
This is it. This is what we're doing. Don't let me make shit up, because I will. Like, I had to front so much to get my job.
Cow,
I will just lie my ass off. And she had, dated super duper wealthy guys, and they had Bentleys and private jets and all that stuff. And she got kind of sick of that life. So our dates would be a motorcycle ride down to like Little Italy and grabbing some fresh fruits, vegetables, and some deli meats and sitting on a curb and having a picnic. And it was so great. And she and her family, Prince Mansour and Prince Majid, at one point she came to pick me and my buddy, Chris Schambach, who I knew in undergrad that had moved out there. Different story entirely. Anyway, she went to pick us up on a Sunday. She's like, I'm going to take you for a ride around the city, because we didn't really know it very well. She showed up in her mom's Rolls Royce.
Oh my gosh.
And she was driving wearing a chauffeur hat.
Oh my gosh.
And she took us around, and we were in the back. And we went around, like, we went to a restaurant, and the valet guy would just park us in front of the fire hydrant in this Rolls. Anyway.
That's amazing.
She provided me the perspective that I didn't have, which was a super objective, like, okay, you love business and you love taking creative ideas and you want to do that in movies. That's called producing. That's the job of a producer.
Okay.
And she said, to do that, you can't be here. You've got to be in Los Angeles. And to go start your career, you need to be single. Not because you're going to do anything, but because opportunities will present themselves so quickly and so randomly. And you're going to go on these crazy adventures. And if you've got somebody waiting at home pissed at you, then it's not going to do what you want. So she's like, I will wait for you for 2 years. And in 2 years, you've either, hit your stride or not, and then we can talk about getting married. And I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
She was wonderful. And then in those 2 years, we grew apart, and she ended up marrying a cardiologist / concert pianist who's also an expert chef. So she outclassed me on every level, like every possible level. He's just better.
I mean, shooting guns in an ex-grocery store versus being a chef.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
And a cardiographic surgeon and a concert pianist. And like,
holy cow, man.
I have an upright bass and some banjo lessons I haven't cashed in.
Do you think she still has the fat boy?
No, she never got, well, they mean the, where's my phone? I'll text her. Great question. I've never thought about that, Heath. Your imagination knows no bounds.
I'm just saying. I mean, it'd be super cool if, after all these years.
It'd be super cool.
Still sitting on her shelf.
And she has been just a wonderful friend and just a great, great person.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing, dude.
Hey, Principessa. Principessa. Do you still have that fat boy?
Do you, so when you moved down there, was there any part of you that was like, I'm jumping in way over my head now? And then when that moment happened where it kind of became, hey, I'm doing this, was there any part of you that went, holy crap, I'm from Midwestern nowhere, and now here I am kind of doing something, like doing what I wanted to do?
That's...
Like, do people have those moments, or is that all just like a...
Oh, no, there are moments of objectivity that hit you, and they're weird.
Yeah.
And they're, kind of, douchey to talk about sometimes. But
sure.
Standing on top of a skyscraper with my friend who owns it in the middle of Manhattan, looking around, being like, whoa, this is taller than the cliffs at Red Canyon where I used to go hike or something like that. But I think that what's been important for me and was a real discovery that changed my life was that in Nebraska, I tried to hide where I was from. I thought Nebraska was the big city, and I was so worried they'd look down on me. Like, this is Kearney, Nebraska. And I was like, oh my gosh, if they find out I'm from the sticks. I may have developed like a mid-Atlantic half English accent at some point to just show that I was an intellectual.
Can you still? Oh, there it is. There it is.
An intellectual, which would later come in handy. When I started my own consulting firm, it was just me in like my apartment until we built out, and it was called Covel, Hampton and Associates. I felt that I needed another name, and Hampton was a guy named Michael Hampton, and he would sometimes take phone calls. He's like, this is Michael Hampton calling, and this is what we do. Yeah. So,
did you smoke the cigarettes with the really long Corella DeVille handles?
Yes, of course. Leo, with my spats. Pardon me, I'm ironing my
good
spats. Leo, I was wondering if you'd like to do some business in the technologies.
And everyone in Kearney's like, what the damn hell are you doing, son?
Well, back in Edgemont, they're like, what's wrong with you? Verbatim. And then when I came to San Francisco, it was that times a million. Because now I'm running around with folks from old money or folks from new technologies and brilliant people who've just come from Stanford or Harvard and are building these things. And I was so insecure. It's like, I don't fit. And then when I went to USC, I went to the Peter Stark Producing Program, which is the master's program in film business. It's called the School of Cinematic Arts. So it doesn't really focus on film exactly, but making content. And they accept 25 out of about 3,000 applicants a year. The USC Film School acceptance rate itself is about 2.5%. Super small.
Wow.
And so I got my acceptance letter, and it said, you will be joined by students from Stanford and Vassar and Oxford and Brown and the University of Nebraska at Kearney. I had like the most words of anybody who had school listings.
Oh my gosh.
And it was the same deal. I was super insecure. I went in there and I was like, oh, I got to play like, I built my company. That's what I do. I'm from San Francisco, did technologies. You're not better than me. And Mansour Farmian said to me when I was leaving San Francisco, he's like, okay, you're going to Los Angeles. You need to understand that you're playing by different rules, and you need to understand that you have to play by these rules. So when you get enough money to buy a car, you will buy a BMW or something shiny. Doesn't matter if you can pay rent or not. Live in that car if you have to, but you will buy a BMW. And so when my company kind of took off a little bit, I had enough money to buy a car, so sure enough, I bought a BMW, and it was a game changer, Heath. It was a game. People just treat you different. Everything that's the thing you think LA might be plays out with that car.
Oh,
suddenly you realize that's the crowd you're in. Well, then I end up in film school. So now I'm like, this is pretty tangential. But I think it's a good illustration.
Yeah, this is interesting.
I hope so. So I wrapped my company up so that I could go to film school. And I was, again, super insecure about, like, I hope they don't find out about my small town South Dakota roots and stuff like that. Maybe they'll find out I'm a redhead. I don't know what's going to happen. So the week before school starts, you get mentors assigned to you from the class before, and mine, his name is Mike Lane. He was shooting a film, and he was producing it, a short film. And so I was like, oh, can I come visit set? He's like, yeah, please come down. It'll be great. Be here at 8 a.m. We're shooting at the church that's on campus. Come on in. I'm like, okay. So I drive down there in my BMW, and I'm in my best shirt, and it's all freshly ironed. Not a jacket, because I want to play it cool.
Right,
you know? I don't want to show that I'm like whatever. And I get there. I'm like, yes, hello. I'm Sean Covel. I'm looking for Mike Lane. He's the producer. I'm here to hang out with Mike Lane, the producer.
And you're not decked out. You're decked out enough to make them think you have better clothes sitting back at home waiting for you.
It's a weekend.
Hey, this is a weekend.
This is my weekend casual, you see, with my carefully distressed jeans or whatever.
I do that all the time.
As one does. Well, you trimmed your beard. It's pretty much the same thing.
That's right.
Adjusted for South Dakota scale, you are spiffed up like a mofo.
I look good, man.
You look good. You look wedding funeral good
right now.
That's right. So I get down there, and I'm walking around. I'm like, yes, I'm looking for Mike Lane. Pardon me. Mr. Michael Hampton for Mike Lane, please. And everybody's like, I think he's over there. I think he's over there. Finally, I find him. He's back by the generators. And I get there, and he's like, oh, hey, are you Sean? I'm like, yeah, you're Mike. Hey, it's great to hang out with you. He's like, hey, yeah, man, do you have a car? And I was like, funny you should mention that, actually.
Funny story.
I do have a car. I have a car. Like, what movie star would you like me to drive around? Because I'm happy to do it. He's like, sweet, the Jenny's out of diesel. Would you run and grab a couple cans worth? And he hands me these nasty-ass, greasy diesel gas cans to go get gas for the generator. And suddenly it was like, I get it. get it. The rules I've made for myself and the skills that I've built out, they don't apply. Now it's about getting into the dirt and getting it done.
Yeah.
And film school kind of rips everybody down that way to take you down to your basics and then have to build you back up as you develop new skills. And slowly, I would kind of get rid of that bullshit facade. Mm-hmm. Slowly meaning like over the course of 4 weeks of meeting all my new classmates who are also in the shit, you know? They're like, everybody in the Stark program has come from a different life that was working.
Sure.
Like, I was the VP of technologies at a massive company in Houston, and now I moved my family out here. I was a consultant with Anderson Company who went to Stanford University. I was making $300,000 a year. Now I'm trying to figure out how to turn on this camera.
You just throw it away. Throw that entire life
It's
away
all
and
gone.
start over.
It's gone. And maybe it will come back to help you later. Mine certainly did, but for that time it doesn't. And so, yeah, I stripped down to be honest, to be real, because there was nothing else to be. And it was from that perspective that I found Napoleon Dynamite, which I never could have found if I was walking around being like, oh, I'm going to make the next Transformers.
Right.
So the thing that I was hiding for so long became my superpower.
And you weren't really looking for that.
No.
Like, so, and I could probably quote the movie to you back forth and upside down.
For it.
Like,
That way I'm not talking the whole time. That's
it was
great.
unreal. But when when that movie came about, you produced it. Who were the writers again?
So Jared and Jerusha Hess, they're
Okay,
a
that's
husband
right.
and wife team.
Yeah.
They had a short film called Peluca, which was in Slam Dance. And we had a buddy, do you remember Project Greenlight?
Yeah.
Yeah. So at film school, one of our contemporaries, Dagan Merrill, whose father was an Academy Award-winning director, right? Because that's just what's happening.
This is your life now, Sean.
This is somebody's life. I'm near it. I'm life adjacent. So he wanted to shoot a short film and see if he could go into Project Greenlight. And we're like, damn, yeah, we'll support you. So we produced a bunch of competition films for him, and he ended up getting in the top 5, which meant going out to Sundance. So we all went out to Sundance, and there's a film festival called Slam Dance, which exists kind of alongside of Sundance. At Sundance, there are 100 other film festivals happening.
Oh.
We Dance and She Dance and Gay Dance and all these things. Then there's like scary things of somebody with a van and a TV in it saying, watch my movie. And as you're walking by, they're like, please come watch my movie. So there's just all kinds of stuff.
It's like indie songwriters, man. Like, hey, I got a guitar in a street corner versus the people on the stage up there blasting away.
Yeah. If the guy's like, and I need you to come into this back alley and get in this van so I can play you my song, then it's the same.
Excuse me, do you think you can fit in my guitar case?
Yeah, let's do this. Lean in real close. I've got an electric guitar, but I don't have an amp. So just lean real close, and I'll play it for you. I'll play my song.
Oh my gosh.
So we go there, and we see this black and white short film, Peluca, about this tall, skinny kid whose buddy named Pedro, an immigrant kid, shaved his head and needs a wig to be able to go to prom. And along the way, this tall, skinny guy finds a suit that he really wants. And it's a 10-minute black and white short film story of that journey. And Doc Wyatt, my producing partner and best friend who I met in film school, I was the guy, I worked at the Creative Artists Agency in the second year of film school and for a year after, and CAA is the biggest talent agency in the world. Like, that's where you'd see, they represent George Clooney and Steven Spielberg and all that.
Yeah.
Right? So I was big into putting together these business deals, which was a lot like headhunting. Doc Wyatt was really big into like stealing cameras from SC and going to make weird crap short films and commercials on the weekends and selling them back to the companies to pay for film school.
Wow.
His car once got broken into and they stole $10,000 worth of camera equipment out of it. But because he stole it from the camera stores at school, they didn't even know it was gone.
Oh,
so
my
it's very
goodness.
quick. Anyway, Doc knew Jared and Jerusha and knew through a guy named Aaron Rule who played Kip. And they all ran around together in undergrad at BYU. And we saw it, and we're like, this is weird and awesome. And they said, yeah, we're kind of thinking about a feature. And we're like, wow, well, we went to film school for business. Maybe we can help put together money for it. Mm-hmm. And so we did. And then we ran out and basically applied all the skills we had learned making short films to making a feature film, which is now no big deal. But at the time, like, I would hustle like a madman because I wanted the neatest, shiniest toys. Like, for a short film, I locked the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, which is where they used to have the Oscars. It's this massive opera house, just to have like 10 people in it for a short film. My ego demanded that happen. So on Napoleon, I got us 35 millimeter Panavision cameras and a full setup. And yeah, we were out there doing it.
Was that your first feature film?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We started pre-production on a movie called Think Tank, and then this one kind of caught faster. Napoleon
Gotcha.
financed faster.
Okay.
Think Tank would go on to be the worst movie ever made by humans. Yes. I now teach at University of Southern California in the spring, and I explain to my students, like, you have total freedom because you will never make the worst movie ever made. I have done that.
Already did it.
I did it. It's called Think Tank, and it is unwatchable.
I got the crown.
Oh, yeah. Even the trailer makes me break out in hives when I see it. It causes me actual physical pain to think about it.
I'm going to have to go watch it
Don't,
now.
you will not.
I'm going to drink half a bottle of whiskey. I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to be texting you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to live tweet it right to you,
Go
man.
for it. You'll get about 4 minutes in, and then I won't hear from you because you will have either passed out or died
I'm done.
from exposure to the worst movie of all time.
So when you went from the short film to the feature film, first one going through,
Yeah.
was there a lot of trial and error, or did you have people who had been there before and said, "Hey, this is kind of what we need to do next," or everything like that, or was it just we're just gonna film a bunch of scenes and put them together? Because I had friends asking me that. They asked so I went to a Bible college,
Okay.
and we're all sitting there and. We all saw it and laughed, of course. Great, especially when you're in college.
Bless your gizzards.
Tons of just like dry humor stuff.
It's
great.
pretty weird.
But we sat around one day and I had a buddy of mine, his name was Jake, and he said, "Do you think that this was just a bunch of different like short films and they just put it all together and like it just worked?" And it's like, I don't know. I mean, there's a clear plot from beginning to end, you know? So I don't think
They come back to it a few times.
But like you could definitely see, we're like, hey, we're going to be at this scene, at this setting for a while, and we're going to film these 4 scenes. And then, whatever. I don't know. But
Yeah, well, it's cool that it has that kind of a vibe. I like that. No, Jared and Jerusha wrote the whole script, and that script, the way Napoleon speaks is the way they speak to each other. And like just like that's what they're doing. Like, what the frick you want to do? Like, that's their vibe. And we all threw our stories, painful stories of adolescence together in a big bucket to be like, here are horrible things that happened to me. I had a perm and was 6'2" and wrestled 130 pounds in high school. Man. Like, I worked with a woman named Mavis who had like 5 teeth and 2 of them on her bottom jaw were spaced perfectly to put a cigarette between, and she would be at the grocery store like cutting meat. She worked, and like a big old ash would be hanging over, and she wore moon boots to work 365 days a year. Like,
I spent a summer making boondoggle necklaces.
I mean, there you go. I mean, who hasn't? So Jared then took those and sequenced them into a line and made the script. And not only was it a completed script, I'm looking around, I don't think I have them here, but that whole movie is storyboarded. Shot for shot. You can see these thumbnail storyboards, and it is exactly what that camera is capturing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The bike jump always got me. And that part alone was funny, but it was the part that Pedro did, and he did it. He succeeded.
Yep.
And then it zooms in close to Napoleon, and I don't know if everyone catches it, but there's a spider web
on his
hanging
head
from his hair.
Yeah.
I'm like, was that planned?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? The flies weren't planned. That wasn't planned.
So good,
There's so much not planned crap, and
that
2
just
things
went
would happen.
perfect for the movie. It's like,
we only had enough film to do like 3 takes of anything. So the scene where, I don't know if you remember, Napoleon's coming home. He's got Pedro on the back of his pegs. It's Uncle Rico talking to Kip about how he could throw a football over a mountain. And he sees Napoleon and like hucks a steak at him.
Right at his face, man.
Remember that?
Oh my gosh.
So I was the one throwing that steak off screen.
Really?
Yeah, which I had no athletic ability. So I like try to lob it, softball style, and it hits John like on his shoulder. I know it didn't really work. And then take 2, I try it again, and I miss him completely. And then John Grice comes over and he's like, "Hey man, listen, I was a minor league baseball player.
Oh no.
And I can hit him. Oh, shit. But I have to put some heat behind it." And we're like, "John, what do you think about a 90-mile-an-hour steak hitting you in the face?" And he's like, "If it's for the movie, it's what we do." All right. Sure enough. Worth it. So it was full deal. Like, knee comes up, like he's on the pitcher's mound.
Oh my gosh.
Smokes him so hard that John's glasses cut him. And we had to patch him up and put makeup over it.
Oh my gosh. Man, that was the scene that made me laugh the most.
Really?
I lost my mind. Well, Rico's side throw that he does on film. You're like, you know, and then bam. Like, I didn't expect it, but
oh man, and
good night.
Yeah, stuff like the magic nachos. Sometimes people talk about.
I love
like, the
that.
cheese is jumping up and down. That's just because we did 3 takes and that's all we had to work with. So we went back and pulled the best performances. And I don't remember what director it was. His continuities for wussies.
I gotta
I feel
ask
like it's
if
David Lynch. Yeah.
Kip looking at him. Because he looks at him every time in the scenes. And like it's almost like he notices they're different, but he doesn't, like he gets this weird look in his face. And maybe I'm just looking into it more than anything.
Yeah, I wish that was
there's
the case.
so many different, like I said, I've seen the movie way too many times, but
I'll show you a picture of Aaron Rule, what he actually looks like. And he showed up and he was so cool. He's such a cool, like, chill filmmaker guy. And
I've seen him with a beard.
Yeah.
He looks gorgeous.
He's a beautiful, beautiful man. Itty bitty, beautiful, beautiful man. And we get him there, and he's like, please don't make me shave the child molester mustache. Well, you got to do it. And then we couldn't get, like, fake movie braces because we don't even know what those are at the time. So I convinced a guy. What is the guy with the thing that does the thing with the braces? What is it called?
The orthodontist?
Thank you. This is embarrassing. I write movies that don't have multi-syllabic
I was pretty sure that wasn't what you were looking for, but apparently it was.
Orthodontist. We convinced an orthodontist to put braces on him for real. Did you have braces?
I never have. No.
You lucky
I went to the dentist, and the guy's like, this is back in the 90s, like mid-90s, and the guy's like, it'd be cosmetic only. So my parents are like, he'll be fine. I got this giant gap in between my two front teeth now.
It's good. It's a good look for you.
My wife loves it. She says it's iconic me now, so I have to keep it.
It is. It's your thing. It should be in part of the sketch that is you with your beard. Should be like a gap there. Yeah, well, for those who have had them, it's excruciating.
Yeah.
They hurt so bad. They cut up the inside of your mouth, and your teeth are locked down. They hurt so bad you can't eat. So suddenly he couldn't eat for a couple days, and the guy weighs 80 pounds dripping wet, right? Plus, we needed him to be pasty white, so everywhere he went, we had like an umbrella over him at all times. He had to wear a hat. We were in Logan, Utah, walking down the aisle at Walmart. It was me and Doc and Aaron. And we came around the corner, and a mother saw him and took her 2 children and pulled them to the other side of the aisle as we passed.
Oh,
and
my
he's
gosh.
like, oh.
He's like, this is bad.
It's bad. So that's a long way to get to the point that Jared Hess, the director, would perform every line of the movie for the actor. He'd be like, you're going to be like, Napoleon, been online chatting with babes all day. You're going to do that, and then Aaron would just parrot it back, and like, you know what I mean?
Oh, my gosh.
He carried that whole movie.
That's amazing.
Isn't it crazy?
That's crazy. I don't think anyone was expecting the success of that movie the way it hit. And it's still one of the, people still watch it.
Bless their gizzards.
All the time.
It's the reason I can afford the chair we're sitting in right now.
Like indie films, I gotta admit, I didn't even realize they were a thing until that movie came out.
Really?
Yeah, because I just thought, movies were these big production things you go to the theater to see and everything like that. And I saw that movie, and I realized there's not a lot of, like, I don't know, people ask you how much that movie cost to make?
Mm-hmm. It was $400,000.
$400,000 to make.
Which at the time seemed like a lot of money. Now people are making movies with their freaking iPhone for $10, so there's less swagger.
That's a good point.
It was $180,000 when we shot it. We spent probably another $50,000 to edit it. But then we got into Sundance, and we needed to strike a film print, and that was $120,000 just to make a film version of the movie to be able to play at Sundance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, see, I never realized that films could be, and I guess the same thing kind of happened with me when I got into like writing my own songs and that. I didn't realize that there are so many different levels of success in every type of art or career that you want to go in. That it doesn't have to be the Disney or for some reason, the only songwriter I can think of right now is Clint Black, and I apologize.
Let me contribute Nicki Minaj. How about that? Let's do someone who's constructed
of the world, you know?
Someone who comes with an idea, like Lady Gaga, who's going to win a freaking Academy Award.
I believe it.
The Lady Gaga, that's an enterprise around her. So
right.
It's a product that's being put out of a system that makes expensive products.
Yeah, absolutely.
And independent songwriting, independent film are the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we figured out very quickly that the walls around Hollywood were very high, and finding the door is tricky, so we decided to pole vault over those walls instead. And the way we did that was put together a slate of 3 movies, had an investor finance all 3 movies, and said, okay, this one's Napoleon Dynamite. It's really weird, and the pitch for it was a quirky comedy by Jared Hess. That's all he knew about the entire movie.
Oh my gosh.
And we're like, if this works, it'll go into theaters, everybody will be happy. We'll be like Clerks. We'll make $3 million in the theater.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't work, nobody's in this movie and it's super weird, so we're going to lose $400,000 of your money. And if that doesn't work, we'll go do this movie called Crawl Space. We made that movie, it later became called Beneath. It's a horror film, so if it works, we'll do business like Saw. And if it doesn't work, we can still sell home video and we can sell foreign television and we can recoup enough money to cover a loss on Napoleon. And then the third movie, which is a drama that would have bigger movie stars in it, because that's the way dramas work, which, you know, in independent film, big movie stars, like the guy who had one line on CSI Miami or whatever. But we did that, and so we went to Sundance. We sold out all the tickets to the movie in 11 minutes after it came on. But nobody from Hollywood bought those tickets. We shot the movie in Preston, Idaho, which is very near Park City, Utah, where Sundance takes place. And we have the longest credits in independent film history because that end scene where all the kids are there and they stand up and give the standing ovation, every single one of those kids has their name in the credits. And nobody ever credits extras. So when you watch them, you'll see like the Andersons will come and just take over the screen, 3 columns of Andersons. Well, everybody there wanted to see the movie because they're on screen. So they all bought the tickets. And nothing inspires Hollywood like not being able to have something. So
I'm sure.
Suddenly, like
wait, what?
There was an article in Variety, the top 75 movies to see at Sundance out of 125. We were not listed in the top 75 movies to see at Sundance, but suddenly everybody wanted to go, and we screened it, and we were terrified because we had never screened for an audience before. And Jared was in the bathroom dry heaving the whole time, and like. Sundance is amazing. Have you seen any? Have you been to Sundance?
I haven't been. I've seen a few, but yeah.
It's an amazing place to see incredibly original movies, but they reward a director's individual vision more than the movie itself. So you'll see nonsensical, weird crap there. And it's okay to get up and just like step over the director and just leave. Like push the lead actor out of the way to leave the theater because there's 124 more movies that are playing.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's known that that'll happen. So you'll see people get up and leave all the time. So Napoleon comes up. It's the first shot. He's standing there in his Zubaz with his trapper keeper, and he's waiting for the bus, and the first person just gets up and leaves. And like he's on the bus, and he throws that action figure out the window as He-Man guy. Second person gets up and leaves. And by the time he's talking about the Loch Ness Monster and show and tell, third and fourth out of there. And we're like, mass exodus. It's going to happen. Everybody's going to leave. We're like shaking. And then the first person comes back, and the second, the third, and the fourth. They were all junior executives from studios, and they were calling their bosses to say, there's something over here. I don't know what it is. It's weird.
No way.
But you got to see it. So that night, we stayed up till midnight 30 negotiating the deal, and Fox Searchlight and MTV Films bought it. And we're all so happy, and they're like, you're going to be in 2,000 theaters. You're going to, which is like Avengers gets 4,000 or 5,000 theaters, right? So you're going to be in 2,000 theaters all across America. Everybody's got to see this movie. Then we did a test screening in Simi Valley where angry screenwriters go to have angry children. And that was our test audience who just gutted the movie because of plot structure. 15-year-olds were talking about plot structure.
What? Come on.
Dead serious.
Oh, jeez.
And 2 girls were there from Minneapolis, and they were both wearing like U of M sweaters. And they were the only ones that timidly raised their hands to say, I liked it. I thought it was funny. It's kind of like the guy who sat next to me in math class. Right? And so our 2000 screen release became 2. One in Los Angeles and one in New York. And I was like, we're dead.
Oh, no.
There's a kind of a thing we use as a touchstone in filmmaking. In the specific is the universal, right? So be as specific as you can when you make your movie because people will relate to that. They'll find truth in that specificity. And that's what we were going for with Napoleon. And it did not happen in that room. So we're like, we're dead if we just open in cities. But it slowly rolled out. Slowly. Nancy Utley, who was running Fox at the time, had 400 free screenings just in random cities where she gave away Vote for Pedro t-shirts and chapsticks before the movie opened. So it started its kind of groundswell. And when I went to the Sundance 5 theater on the first night we opened to see how the audience was, there was a 15-year-old kid come walking out with an FFA jacket and a Vote for Pedro t-shirt, and it was covered in like Vote for Summer, Vote for Pedro pins. And he had like 10 of his friends behind him. He's like, see, I told you.
Oh my gosh.
And that was awesome because it started our rollout, but it did what you just talked about. It introduced a lot of people to independent film, a lot of kids to independent film, not because they saw a commercial for it, but because their friends said, check this thing out.
Yeah.
here's something, look what I found, and people kind of own it, which I love. That's such an honor.
Yeah, well, and like I said, I would have been 19 or 20, I think, when it came out. So this was a while ago, you know?
Hell yeah.
And
I mean, you're what, 27 now? I mean, maybe 26. You're 26?
Dude, I'm gonna be 35 years old in like a month.
Oh,
wow. To buy a van, move to the river. But
happy birthday.
Yeah, and so I remember that when that came out, and we're sitting there, but like I said, that was the first time I'd realized this isn't like any movie I've ever seen before. It wasn't this giant, like there wasn't any CGI, at least that I knew, you know.
There is.
Is there really?
Here's where. There's CGI on Napoleon's desk under his trapper keeper when he flips his trapper keeper closed and it says Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
That's CGI.
It wasn't just written on the desk.
No, because we didn't think about that at the time.
Oh, man.
Would have been a great idea. So there's your CGI.
Well, there it is. Okay, so I stand corrected. There's black ink marker.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a high CGI budget.
Yeah, that was probably more than our catering budget, but yeah.
Oh man, but
it was a different thing.
Yeah, it was phenomenal, and I gotta wonder, like, what people thought when they, like, just from your hometown. Like, when you go back or when you visit people from high school, is it like a hometown hero situation, or is it just?
Well, I mean,
because like I was a hometown hero when we won high school football, you know, and I wasn't even the hero of that, you know. I was just kind of, hey, I was on the team also, so.
Yeah, but you won high school football. That's a big freaking deal. In all seriousness, that's like the community rallying around their people. In Nebraska, no less. Oh my gosh. That's a big deal. And I got to see that on the sidelines for people who could play sports doing great things, you know? And that is a hometown hero situation. When we screened Napoleon, after I'd made it, everybody came to the Hot Springs Theater, which is where I went to see all my movies growing up. And they were like, packed the theater. Everybody's so excited, and we had this. It was just a big, electric, fun time. And the movie takes place, and everybody's watching it, and nobody laughs. Like nobody. I'm trying to find this picture to show you, which is very helpful to all of your podcast listeners. But nobody laughed. It was dead silent. Crickets. And at the end of the movie, it was a very awkward handshake. Good job, well done, kid. And everybody left, and we had this kind of like meet up afterward with all my teachers and my friends and stuff, and they came up to me and they had this look of incredible concern on their faces, and they were like, why would you do that?
Oh no.
I'm like, what, did you not like the movie? They're like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Why would you tell people? I'm like, what do you mean tell people? They're like, you didn't have to tell anybody about this. This was your secret. You didn't have to. I'm like, what do you mean my secret? What are we talking about here?
Where's this going?
What's happening? They're like, that haircut, there's not that many pictures of it. Wait, this isn't about me. This isn't a documentary. What are you talking about?
Gosh.
Oh my God. So when it released, it kind of terrified them. And then when the movie took off, you know, you come back home, and the first thing I always get when I see, you know, my friends or people I went to high school with, there's this 5-minute period of where they're kind of looking me up and down, and they're like, so, have you become a big city douchebag?
Right.
Like,
are you a
do you
dick
get
now,
that when you go
or
home?
are
You see the folks, they're like, so, are you too big for your britches?
Yeah.
So I have this thing I have to do, this like self-deprecating, talk about stuff growing up thing, to prove I'm not a douchebag. I am a douchebag, but I need the hour.
There's got to be some level of normalcy to you.
It's a thing. It's
especially around here. I mean, mostly because, you know, I mean, anywhere in the Midwest, what I think about, you know, when people reach some level of success, they don't usually come back. You know, at least they stick it out there, or they disappear off the face of the earth. The town my parents live in, I forget her name, but she was in, was it CSI? The actress, I think it's CSI.
Marge Helberg? Is she blonde?
Blonde.
She went to Kearney as well.
Yep, so she grew up in North Bend, Nebraska, where my parents currently live.
Oh, wow.
That's where she graduated high school, you know?
Damn.
But, I mean, you never hear about her coming back to visit. It's just, and maybe she does, and maybe she's like super chill and quiet about it, and nobody ever knows, you know? But yeah, I mean, it's things they see her on the TV, like, oh, she graduated from this school, and my parents moved there like 8 years ago. So it's not like we're from there, you know. But you know, it's like, hey, it's this town.
It's a thing, yeah.
But
well, that's cool. I
don't
mean,
know.
it being on screen, like the second you're on screen, you have just so much more social capital.
Yeah, I guess that makes
than
sense
being
because people
behind the
can
scenes.
see your face and they
Yeah.
recognize you. Like it's probably nice to be a little bit behind where you can still be incognito a little bit, you know?
Yeah, you know.
Like I didn't know who you were when I first met you.
I didn't know who I was when I first met you. It's been a journey of self-discovery since that day in Flanagan's.
Well, see, I think you'd come in like 3 or 4 times, and everyone just kept calling you the Napoleon Dynamite guy.
Seems like it was an insult. Like, why are you calling that guy?
Yeah, I didn't
mean
realize. I
thing to
didn't know
say.
why. I'm like, oh, maybe he just like really likes the movie or something like that,
That's awesome.
or maybe he just quotes it all the time. You know, 'cause I had no idea. He's the guy that comes up and I serve him a beer and I move on with my day. You know, and we talk, we laugh a little bit, and he moves on. And then it was, I think, almost a year into it, someone finally said, "No, he's the Napoleon Dynamite guy," and it's like, oh. Well, that's cool. You know, I just kind of
Because there's only one, and it's me. Congratulations, welcome to me.
well, because by then I'd already known you, so it wasn't like there was this level of, I don't know. Even people meet quote unquote famous people. Everyone kind of has this weird thing, but like if you know them without that persona, it's like it's Sean. Like it's I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know, I will suck up any fame that's being accorded to me. You know, it's great. It's weird because dating. It's weird, especially dating out here.
That's got to be tough, man.
It's well, certainly. Yeah, I mean, you know, you got the good one. Good job, you got the good one. Way to go.
Sorry,
Got the
South
good one.
Dakota.
Yeah, sorry, South Dakota. High and dry. It's this thing where I want to be like, especially because I'm a redhead, which makes us insecure, right? Like, hi, I did this. Please like me. You know what I mean? Or you make
my
new
wife's
friends.
a redhead, so
There you go. Or making new friends out here in towns where people have known each other forever. It's like, hi, my name's Sean. I did this. Please like me.
Yeah.
But you can't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then you're just a level 10 D-bag.
Yep.
So it's a thing. It's a thing where I was like, maybe I could contribute something to this conversation if we talk about movies.
yeah, that's.
But I get really lucky. I mean, it's totally a blessing, and it allows me to do stuff like this. You know, I get to put this little producer Napoleon Dynamite thing, and now we have Hoarder the Hoarder, which is our children's book series, and this is part of
that's cool.
an educational initiative that we teamed up with the United Way on. So every first grader in the Black Hills gets a free copy of this.
No kidding.
Thanks to the United Way. Yeah, and like the 12
This
Days
is
of
a
Pizza
series.
thing, that whole thing happened because there's a little social capital there.
Dude, I was looking at the 12 Days of Pizza today. That started 3 years ago.
Yes.
So you were talking with a friend of yours who's a
Yep.
teacher.
Yep.
And she was telling you how some kids they don't know where they're going to eat over Christmas break.
Yeah, she had 25 kids in her class, second grade class, and 12 of them were freaked out about going on break. They were terrified because school provided them like all their meals.
And what grade was this?
Second grade.
Second grade.
And I was like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
Isn't that terrifying?
That's well. See, I spent about 3 or 4 years trying to make a career in social work.
Oh, yeah. Wow. You've seen it then.
Yeah, and part of that, you know, when you go in and you study for it and everything, you learn a lot about. I'm not sure how many updates there have been to it since, but you know, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
I mean, if your basic needs aren't met, you can't do anything else. Like that's where you're going to spend your focus and energy. It's just biological necessity.
Right.
You know, food, shelter, clothing. You know, if those aren't taken care of, you can't be expected to get anything. And the place I worked at, a psychiatric facility.
Oh, wow.
So super abused kids.
Where?
In Spearfish.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, Canyon Hill Center.
Okay.
I don't know if you. It's part of the Lutheran Social Services organization here in the state. But you have these kids that come in and they come through just these horrible backstories of abuse and starvation and crazy things. And they come in. And one of the things, I was one of the supervisors there, and actually ended up writing their behavioral treatment program that they still use for the kids.
Well done, sir.
I know.
Well done.
But one of the things I noticed was as soon as the kids realized I have a place to sleep and I'm always going to get fed, and no matter how I behave, that's going to happen, like their behaviors changed. You could start to then teach them about respect, about not lying, about stealing, the things that, we take for granted because we don't have to worry about where our next meal is going to come from.
Right.
But it was eye-opening because you don't think about, like, the hierarchy of needs is a real thing.
And it's just assumed
Yeah.
that it's all good. That's welcome to America, you know? That it's all good. Well, yeah, I mean, 49% of Lead Deadwood High School is on the free and reduced lunch program.
Oh,
49%, and you don't know that, and that's high school students.
that's a huge
And
percentage.
schools do an amazing job of getting these kids food. Like I knew that there was free and reduced lunch program. I didn't know there was a breakfast program. I didn't know there's a summer program. I didn't know that there's the backpack
realize there was
program.
a summer
yeah,
program.
summer program. And on weekends, the backpack program, they pack it full of food and let these kids go home with a backpack to try to get through the weekend.
What?
So there's a conscious effort to deal with this exactly. It's just that the 12 days of Christmas break were the time that the school actually shuts down completely.
Yeah.
And that's the time that they have food insecurity. And my sister's a teacher in Sturgis, and she talked about what you're talking about. She said that after Christmas break, you'll see the kids who came from a food insecure background who didn't get fed. It takes them 3 weeks just to get to the place they can start learning again.
Easily.
Because they're dealing with what you're talking
Yeah.
about. And so they're screwed. And when I heard about that from the teacher, you know, I was like, holy crap, what are we going to do? Maybe I could write a check and try to get to the food shelter thing
Yeah.
and there are so many amazing programs in the Black Hills. In Los Angeles, as you can imagine, homelessness is pervasive. There's so much poverty that you turn a blind eye to it. Here, what was amazing was I learned about this single problem, 12 kids who were facing 12 days. I made a movie called The 12 Dogs of Christmas. And I was like, well, if I, donate some money, maybe we could help them, but that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
That doesn't do a thing. So how can we create a thing that works all 12 days, right? And make it kind of catchy and snappy.
Yeah.
And that came back to the little bit of social capital I had. I could call somebody, Meg Hoarder over at the 1880s train, and say, I want to do something where kids get fed for 12 days and we'll sponsor the 12 families that need help. And I've been thinking about what kids like. So pizza, we're going to do the 12 days of pizza. What do I do? And she's like, oh, you call this guy. He's the president of Black Hills Community Bank. So suddenly I can get him on the phone. And I say, okay, here's what I want to do. Do you know any pizza parlor owners? And he says, yeah, I think I do. Hung up, called me back 5 minutes later and said, Pizza Ranch Rapid City is in. They will sponsor these 12 families and give them 12 large pizzas with whatever they want, one a day, or chicken, because you shouldn't burn a 9-year-old out on pizza. That's cruel.
Right.
But like they've got their back, and they will deliver it to their houses.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Jeez.
And that happens in small towns. Like that's
Oh,
what's
yeah.
great about South Dakota.
Absolutely.
When South Dakotans see a problem, they're like, that's a problem. Let's fix it.
Yep.
Immediately. And so we kind of created that program. And in year one, we supported 12 families, which was 144 meals, which was awesome. In year two, they adopted the program in Spearfish and in Sturgis, and Spearfish delivers meals here to Deadwood. So those cities all
Okay.
came together. And we did about 550 meals, I think. And so my goal for year three last year was to expand to 1,000 meals. Like if we can cover that many families, like 150 families or whatever, with 1,000 meals, then we're rocking it. But Pizza Ranch, the company that we work with, I made a video to try to enlist 20 locations, just kind of send it around, like here's what we're doing, here's what we're up to. And it got passed around the company. And instead of doing 1,000 meals, we did 12,000 meals.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. And
Third year in.
Third year in. And what's amazing about it is that, I mean, I've got this map right
Yeah,
here of all the
yeah.
locations. Every single dot you see on that map, that's an individual owner who owns their own little shop. And the mandate of the program, I have two mandates. One, don't take individual donations, because it's the problem that I had. If I write a check once, what happens next year?
Right.
It has to be a company that teams up with them, like a bank or whatever. That way it is sustainable. And two, when they choose the families, they have to choose a family that has at least one elementary school-aged kid.
Sure.
And so other than that, do whatever the hell you want. And this is like, everything about this is small town. Everything.
Ah, I love it.
The exact same story here is happening in every town right there.
God, that is so cool.
That's pretty rad. That's small town stuff right there.
And so this is coming up pretty soon then?
yeah,
I
it's
mean, this
happening
is
right now. I just had a meeting about it yesterday. We're at 80 locations right now.
80
So,
locations.
yeah, we're hitting around 14,000 meals. which is
Oh
great.
my gosh.
I know, man.
It's crazy to see something ramp up that quick.
Tell me about it.
And like you said, I mean, it's definitely a small town thing. I mean, your map is, those are all the Midwestern states.
yeah. That's right here in the middle.
And Pizza Ranch is that only a Midwestern thing? Is it?
It started in Iowa, which is why there's a whole bunch of them
Right.
in Iowa, and is kind of growing out in different directions from there. There's only a few of them here. in South Dakota. And a couple of them, Aberdeen hasn't jumped in yet. I got to drive to freaking Aberdeen and throttle that guy.
Come on, man.
Yeah, the only problem with
We're
driving to
rooting for
Aberdeen is that when you get there, you're in Aberdeen.
Right.
East River, man.
So my college girlfriend was from Langford, which is about 20 minutes from Aberdeen.
Oh.
And so when we first went up to visit her family, she was, yeah, well, let's go to the big city. She took me to Aberdeen.
Yeah.
I was like,
East River, man. I don't get it.
I don't understand it.
I don't get it.
I mean, kudos to them because people got to live somewhere. But
I mean, we need corn.
We do. That we do.
World. So that's nice.
So when you put this together, did you picture this? Or did you kind of think, hey, it's going to be a local thing? Or was it with, I guess, better question is, did a lot of the expansion come from the Pizza Ranch organization saying, hey, we don't really have any type of thing that we do like this. Let's make this part of our business or anything like that?
It happened on two levels. One, at the Pizza Ranch level, part of their charter, their founding charter, is to support and illuminate the grace of God by being active in their communities. So there was a real fundamental religious tenet there, which this kind of rang true with, which was great.
Sure.
At the same time, they were trying to find a charitable endeavor to sign up with Wounded Warriors, is what they were considering at the time, but they hadn't. So there was an opportunity there. And then from my perspective, which I worked with the bank and the Pizza Ranch here to make sure we constructed, I wanted to have a system. I didn't want to have an idea. And to be able to say, this is exactly what we did. This is what the coupons look like that we printed out. And here's how we gave them to the schools. And here's what we said to the guidance counselors. And here's the little motor. Like, here's the machine. So you can have it.
Yeah.
You can do exactly this. So we're not giving you an idea. We're giving you a system.
It's self-sustaining. Like, switch it to on, and here you go.
Here's yours. Switch it on, and there you go. And that worked. It was the perfect confluence.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah. It worked out super great. And I hope that it continues to. My involvement in it now, I'm kind of jockeying and doing stuff like that, but it's all on the individual level that these folks are doing it.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah,
and I could totally see like kids taking about 3 weeks or so to, because even after they start to get fed again, like it's a subconscious thing in your mind. It messes with your psyche when you have a hard time. Am I going to eat today?
I literally can't imagine. You know? Like, I'm hungry right now, and I was like, I'm focused on that. Could you imagine not eating for days at a time?
No.
It's
in America.
In America. There's that wonderful story of the old man sitting on a bench. I don't know if you've heard it, and he's looking down the beach, and it's covered in starfish, and there's a little boy walking up, picking up a starfish, and throwing it back in the ocean, and finally he gets to the old man, and the old man's like, son, look at all these starfish. You're not doing enough to make a difference. And the little boy looks up to the old man and says, don't be an asshole. What's wrong with you? You have 2 arms and you're sitting on a bench. You got something better to do?
That's exactly how I remember the story.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's what it says in all of the Hallmark cards. Don't be a dick. Right? So that's what this is. You know? Like, anybody wants to help kids. Nobody doesn't want to help kids. We just want to say, here's a way to do it. Great. You can do it.
Well, and it's really cool that you took the initiative to do that, because like I said, it's easy to come from a small town, move to a big city, get that BMW, even if you're living in it, and it just whoosh all to your head. You know what I mean? I mean, you see people do it all the time, but then to move back here and not only like, hey, I've had some success personally, but because of that, I have a platform to do something for others. And that's, I mean, what else can you do? You know what I mean? If more people did that, you'd be surprised what the world would be like. But
one thing I realized when I was in Los Angeles, first off, LA was eating at me, right? I was there for 15 years, and suddenly I stopped seeing what's amazing about it. It's easy to bag on LA. Like, growing up here, I bagged on LA all the time, scared of bigger cities. So I didn't see it for its great restaurants, and I didn't see it for its amazing culture, and I didn't see it for its entertainment. I just started seeing it for the traffic, and started seeing it for the graffiti, and for the garbage, and for the homelessness, and all these things. And you're wasting so much of your life if you're in a place that you don't love.
Sure.
In so many different directions, right? Your resources are completely tapped. And I found myself coming back here 8 or 9 or 10 times a year, right? And finally, I realized, I made 10 movies. One of them is shot in Los Angeles. One of them has been financed in LA, so I can kind of live anywhere. So let's try this experiment. Because the other thing that was becoming very clear was, I moved to California in pursuit of quality of life. I was there for the weather, and I was going to stack some bank, get me that BMW. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Do
right?
red-haired people tan, Sean? I'm kind of curious what that looks
I
like.
didn't realize I'd never seen sunlight before. And then I got there and was like, damn it, I've been sold a bill of goods.
Lobster.
Lobster. So I got there, and it was all about quality of life. And then I started to realize that the people who are at the top of their game in LA, in any industry, be it entertainment or finance or whatever, have these big, huge houses, but they have big, huge front yards, and they have big, huge walls around them. And the cars they're driving have darker and darker tinted windows, and what they're doing becomes, isolation. And the difference between quality of life and quality in life is people. And back in small towns, I can, have a conversation with you at a bar and end up hanging out and doing this stuff. I can run into somebody when I'm at the grocery store, and I will. If I go to the grocery store right now, I'm going to see somebody I know. Mm-hmm. If I drop in to grab a sandwich at the lodge in the morning, which I do, they'll already have it waiting for me. That's community.
Yeah.
And that's where the good stuff is. And big cities, to hang out with my friends, you schedule 2 weeks out, and then you reschedule on each other 2 or 3 times. Now I'll get a text from Ed and Daniil like, hey, we're at the veranda, or hey, we're up here. Heath is hosting his awesome music sitting. Get your ass up to the patio. And I walk the block and a half to get there.
Right.
That's what it's about, man.
Yeah.
That's the stuff.
Yeah, and I've only ever grown up in small towns. I was born just outside of Chicago, but grew up small towns and that. So I've only ever known that.
Yeah.
I went from Arthur, my senior year in high school. There were 6 kids in my grade in Arthur. We had 30 kids junior high through high school.
Damn, yeah.
My senior year, we moved to Omaha, and I graduate from Benson High School. 3,000 kids.
Holy crap!
And
what was that like? What was that like for you to show up on day one?
It was pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
For me, I was in band. I played the trombone, and we didn't have marching band. We had a pep band and a concert band. We go there and it's marching band, and you have to memorize the stuff. You don't have the sheets in front of you. Plus, you have to know where to step.
Yeah.
So there's this. But marching bands. Have you ever been a part of one?
No.
Okay.
I have no talent of any sort at all. That's what producing is. We hire talented people.
You just put it all together and jumble it. Yeah.
Good job.
But there's a huge camaraderie with marching band.
Yeah.
So it instantly connected me with a bunch of people at that school, all of which played sports or were in drama or were smart in math, because they all do other things too.
Oh, that's cool.
So that helped out a lot. Plus, I was really fast in high school. Okay. So cross country and track and everything like that I was really, really good at. I did not play football when I moved there, though, because... So, true story, 6-man football, it's 15 yards for first down, 80 yards in the whole field.
Oh.
It's normal to get 70, 80 points a game, because if you get open, there's only 6 guys to beat. You know what I mean? You just run.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so if you're me, who's fairly small but really fast, I used to be, Heath, run, they'd chuck the ball down the field, I'd make a 72-yard catch, and there's a touchdown, you know what I mean?
Amazing, yeah.
But I moved to Omaha, and... Yeah, I'm not playing football there. It's 11-man, and they're huge. Just big. Of course, they're going on to play for the Huskers, you know.
And they've probably been recruited into high school.
Absolutely. So I did not play football there. But in the college I went to was small. But then right after that...
Where did you go? Did you go to...
Grace University. It's actually closed down now, which I think is kind of funny. But
where is it?
It's in Omaha. Yeah, it was in downtown Omaha, just past the 10th Street Bridge.
We have a shirt in Napoleon that's from a Christian college that I think is Grace University in Nebraska. I'm dead serious, because we were trying to clear the copyright on it and we couldn't find it.
What? Is it in the film?
Uh-huh.
Now I'm gonna have to go back and look through it.
Anyway, many ones. So when you went to college, how big was your class there? Was it a tight group?
So it was about a 600, 800 person college.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so super small. But great for me, I loved it. I was student body president 2 years in a row. Yeah. So I mean, it was again, it was one of those things where I was climbing the wrong ladder, to use your words.
Yeah.
I had climbed this ladder. I got hired on as a pastor my senior year, so I was doubling senior year of school, and then I was a pastor at the same time, head pastor 3 years of that in Missouri Valley, Iowa.
Wow.
And then. Life just kind of hit, and I this isn't what I want to do. Like I wanted to help people, and I didn't feel like I was doing that from behind a pulpit saying stories people had heard hundreds of times before, but really not doing anything. When I got into social work, then that kind of, it's like, hey, I'm actually affecting these kids' lives, and I'd get messages from the kids every now and then. Hey, Mr. Johnson, wanted to let you know I'm doing good. One of the kids actually got to perform his wedding.
Oh, wow.
So it was just super cool. It's
Super
like,
cool.
oh man, these kids had nowhere to go, and they met someone that cared, and I was just there with them, and that.
Yeah.
It's a small town thing, and it's not that larger cities can't do that. There's tons of amazing things that do happen in larger cities, but I don't know if I've ever seen something happen this quick, in a larger city that doesn't feel like it's, because it's one thing to do it, but it's another thing to do it to be seen doing it. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think of every Batman movie I've ever seen when he has his fundraisers. Okay.
Big fancy smash. Well, it's true, but I think part of that is what happens when you have an entity be like, all right, so what's a problem? Let us sit around and drink our expensive coffees and think about a way that we would solve that problem, and now go hand it to them, right? Versus in a small town where somebody can say, this is that kid's problem, and that kid's problem, and that kid's problem. So what can we do for those three kids? Oh, it's the same thing? Awesome.
And you have someone that actually rolls their sleeves up and says, oh, I can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Rapid City Pizza Ranch. Like,
yeah.
Oh, we'll do it.
The same thing's happening with these Hoarder books. This is our children's book series, but it's, look and find stuff that just so happens to correlate with another massive problem with early childhood development. You're talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and certainly food is there, but love is there too.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons love is there is because it creates an interconnection, a bond, and there's security there, but what's also there is learning. And something they're facing right now is a lack of parent-child engagement, which is often schedule-related. If you're a single parent, you work 2 jobs, or if you're 2 parents each working, then you hit that rhythm of like breakfast, school, work, back, eat in front of the TV, go to bed. And every parent wants to read with their kids. They just don't know when it's going to happen. So this book reads in like 7 minutes, and it has to be a big reading with a kiddo. And we created this parent homework thing that goes with it. So now, on the end of December, we're going to have this big event, and kids are whipped into a froth because they're reading this book on a big projection board in their classroom. And right when they're having so much fun picking out all the stuff, then it's like an Oprah moment. You get a book, and you get a book, and you get a book. And they're like, we got a book. And then it's like, guess what? Your parents have homework, and you're the expert, and you have to show them how to do it. Here's the homework, and we give them this sheet. And so it's addressing that same thing with
cool.
the thing that we wanted to do. We've already written these Hoarder books, but learned about it from an individual perspective from Brittany. And then found the United Way and Black Hills Reads, and that's what they do. They look at local stuff, and they're like, oh, early childhood education, this is a thing that can happen. Bam, they got 4,500 copies of this book to give out for the next few years to every first grader for free.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Well, something that you're talking about in your story that I think is common among successful people and certainly successful artists is this idea of, for lack of a better phrase, getting in the game. I was going to Boys State. I was elected to go to Boys State, which was punishment. I believe it was in Aberdeen. It was in Aberdeen.
Well, there's
my God.
That's the problem.
Part 1.
When you go,
Aberdeen.
take a selfie in front of it. I want it sent to me.
There you go.
I want to see it.
Oh, and I'm tracking them down. And Boys State is like, 500 boys living on a campus studying government. What's worse than that? That's awful. And I didn't want to go. I was crying and begging my mother not to make me go.
Hell.
Right? And I was probably 18 when it happened. I don't remember. And as I was getting ready to go, I was at Halberstad's in the mall in Rapid City because I had to get a suit for Boys State. And I was like, oh. So this guy who still works there, he's showing me different suits and stuff. And he's like, okay. And he said, oh, you're going to Boys State? I was like, oh. He says, listen, I went to Boys State many years ago. And I'm going to give you a piece of advice that was given to me. Please heed this advice. When you get there, throw yourself into all of it and do it immediately. Because it's going to start to do its thing, and people are going to start to form relationships, and everything's going to have a structure. And if you don't get into it immediately, you're going to be on the outside of it. And it's going to be scary, and it really doesn't matter what you do. Just go for it and get in there. Like, get yourself in the game. And this idea of in the game doesn't really work for me because I'm not athletic and never was. But this idea of, okay, I don't know what's going to happen, but I have a choice right now, which is to commit to it and start or to sit back and wait. And when you sit back and wait and it starts to roll past you, you never jump in.
Yeah.
But like what you did, you got in the game. You threw yourself into when you got to Omaha, throwing yourself in the mix there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then putting yourself out there at every step. And when you see the people who haven't really lived their dreams, you'll often haven't even taken a step toward it and are very bitter and resentful about that. Mm-hmm. You can track back to the moments that they could have just said, okay, I'm doing this, and gone for it, and they didn't. So,
yeah. Well, and I've always been kind of an outgoing person, so that helped too.
Yeah.
And just I can get along with it. Could get along with anyone, no matter what. But growing up in a small town like Arthur, like you were the class president, you were in band, you were in choir, you were in drama, you were in speech, you did all the sports. Because if you didn't play basketball, we didn't have a team. You know what I mean? So everybody had to play.
They would come get you from your house.
Oh, absolutely. We had 6 guys on our basketball team, and it was still 5-man. It wasn't 3-on-3.
Oh my God.
And the backup was the freshman because everyone else was the upperclassmen. But, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. This is super cool. It's neat that you've got I noticed with the children's books here, it's the Napoleon Dynamite theme too. And I know, I don't remember, I vaguely remember a cartoon a few years back.
Yeah, we did a television
series.
That was
an
animated series for 6 episodes. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Napoleon works really well when it's kind of weird and surrealistic, sort of almost as a live action thing. But cartoons can be weirder and more surrealist than anything.
Right.
So when we tried to cross over, suddenly we're like, how do we out-weird The Simpsons? How do we do that? And Mike Scully was an executive producer on it. He created The Simpsons. So great, we're going to have like a secret underground MMA fighting ring in a cornfield? No. Well, let's not do that, and let's stay more like Napoleon and keep it mellow. Wait, that's boring as a cartoon. And Jared always wanted to do a television series, even before the movie. He wanted to create the Brothers Dynamite about Kip and Napoleon.
That's crazy.
Maybe in the future. Who knows?
That's cool, man.
Yeah, man.
That's cool.
It's a blessing. There are career-defining things that you do, and then there are life-defining things that you do. And I think this will probably be a life-defining thing for me, but it's...
well, like I said, I'll always define you as the guy that would come into Flanagan's, so because that's how I knew you first. But
get sloshingly drunk.
Well, this is cool, man. I'm really glad you took the time to do this.
Thanks,
like
man.
I said,
I
it was been nice to catch up too. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's
since
good to
we've
see you.
Gotten to chat. So
It's good. I only see you when you're on stage and I wave from the back. Oh,
I know.
Hi,
I'm at the
Heath.
Grand this weekend actually.
Oh, are you?
Friday and Saturday. Yeah, I just got called today. They had someone cancel on them, so
that's cool.
kind of randomly. But
you are a leader here in the arts, and I think you might not realize the gravity that you have, the importance that you have. Because whenever I hear of anybody who's trying to figure out how to do it, it leads to you for advice and for the conduit to be able to get in the game.
as long as it's not like a gate, like I don't want to be
I know,
the guy
right?
holding the
That's the
key.
trick.
You know what I mean? Like if you've got an idea, like by all means, go and do it. Like I keep telling everyone with the South Dakota songwriters, they're like, hey, do you think that South Dakota songwriters could do this? I'm like, yeah, go do it. Do you want the logos? Do you want this? Like, oh, well, can you? I'm like, it's not my idea. Please do it.
I completely understand what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean?
That's been the downside of getting in movies at all, because there's such a disproportionate number of film opportunities to the number of people who want to take them.
Oh, sure.
Especially in Los Angeles. But even out here, everybody's like, oh, you can make a movie. Here's an idea. People often pitch me their life story, and I feel bad that I simply can't do it.
Yeah.
And my solution for it, much like here's the logos, I simply say, awesome, we need a script, go write it.
And they're
just
like,
won't. And they know, everybody's got screenwriting software and stuff, but I'm like, write anything. Write me a 10-page story. And then it's like, great, good. And those stories, some of those stories are brilliant. Mm-hmm. I've heard snot bubble cry amazing stories that I would love to make, but I don't know how. I don't have the vision for it the way they do.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's kind of how it works.
That's how it works.
People get their own vision. Like for me, I've always kind of been in that level of, I have to do something. Like I can't just go to work and then come home every day. Like I kind of chatted with my wife. I was like, maybe I do too much because I do a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my plate gets busy really, really quick. We got a kid coming too, so it's like
congratulations.
Thank you.
When?
April.
April.
Yeah, late April we're expecting. And we're going to be surprised, so we don't know if it's going to be a boy or a girl.
It's a rare thing these
I know.
days.
She wanted to be surprised. She said, she goes, it's the last surprise you get in life except the day you die. And I went, well, you're not wrong.
Yeah, your logic is unassailable.
Okay,
I
honey.
accept your science.
Oh, man. But,
And
yeah.
how many daughters do you have? 2 daughters?
So I have two. I have two daughters, 12 and 11. They're awesome. Dude.
They are awesome.
It's crazy cool how watching them grow up and just being like, I don't know. I couldn't have asked for better kids. Like they're super great.
Well, they couldn't have asked for a better dad.
Well, I don't know. You know,
you're a great dad.
I do all right. I try to keep them entertained as much as possible. But yeah, we'll have to catch up again, man. This would be cool. This would be cool. But yeah, well, cheers.
Cool.
There's
Yeah,
nothing
thank
in
you
front
for
of us.
coming on over to the office.
Thanks.
This must have been 5 hours. How long did we do
The
this?
Heath Bar at your office. This was only an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, we
Crazy,
went deep,
right?
man.
We
went
did.
Deep.
It was good. There you have it, folks. I sure hope you enjoyed that conversation just as much as I did. Once again, I want to remind you of the Patreon page if you are looking to want to be able to help support this podcast and help it grow. Patreon.com/The Heath Bar. Give $1, give $2. Whatever it is you think you might be able to do every month is fine with me. And like I said, I've got some cool stuff that'll be coming your way and some extra content getting developed that will be on there for the regulars only. Once again, also, if you want to shoot me an email, heath@heathbaronline.com, and you can find this episode as well as all the other episodes and additional content on the website, heathbaronline.com. And that's last call, folks. Time to go home. We'll see you next time.